have used one story system to convert existing followings into consistent high ticket revenue across every coach and creator I've ever worked with. And it works the same way no matter the niche or the audience size. And it's one of the biggest reasons I have coaches with 5,000 story viewers pulling in $50,000 to $60,000 a month, while someone with 100,000 followers on the same platform is making $8,000 a month. So in the next 30 minutes, I'm going to explain why it's the single best move you can make if you have an existing following and you're not turning it into consistent revenue. So if you're not sure what to do with your Instagram following right now, no matter what niche you're in or how big your following is or whatever revenue goal you're trying to chase, this will help. Now, the first question you really need to answer before even posting a single story is, why would anyone buy from you? Your ideal client follows 50 other people in your space right now. They all teach similar stuff. They all claim results. They all have expertise. So why you? Well, it's not your information. They can get that anywhere. ChatGPT has it. YouTube has it. Every course on the internet. Same stuff. Information is a commodity now. You are not. Because people buy people, not information. The only thing that can't be replicated is your personality, your stories, your weird takes, the opinions that piss some people off, why you got into this in the first place. That is your unfair advantage. And stories are the only format on Instagram that let you show it consistently every single day, 2 to 3 times per day, without it being weird. Reels are for strangers. Stories are for people who already follow you. It's the intimacy channel. Instagram themselves said people go to stories to see their closest friends. So when your follower watches your stories for 3 months straight, sees your morning coffee, hears your take on industry BS, watches you celebrate a win, and then be honest about a bad month, they don't feel like they're buying from some random person on the internet. They feel like they're buying from someone they know. The difference this makes on sales calls is absolutely massive. Like, let's say they think you're just a random coach on Instagram. You're compared on price. You get objections on every single call. You always get the objection, let me think about it. You get ghosted after every proposal, and $3,000 feels very expensive to your client. When you're someone that they know, you're trusted with the outcomes. You're pre-sold before the call. They ask you, when do we start? They refer your friends or they refer their friends, and $10,000 feels reasonable. But the problem here is that most people suck at being a person, at least on the internet. So that's why I built an exact system that helps you build a likable, profitable, genuine personal brand on Instagram using stories. And this all hinges on a single basic principle: imperfect over polished. Your raw, slightly messy, honest story converts better than any cinematic reel you could produce, because being polished feels like an ad. Raw feels like you're talking to a friend. Now, the concept of being authentic is vague and it's useless on its own. So the system here breaks it down into 4 specific types of stories. Each one builds a different layer of trust. If you stack all 4, you will become what marketers call a category of one. Not just another business coach, not another expert, the person in your space that followers actually feel connected to. So what are the 4 types? Type number 1 is personality stories. And this is where most people will mess up the hardest. Personality stories aren't about your business at all. They're about you as a human, your morals, your values, what you think about when you're not working, what makes you angry, what makes you laugh, your hobbies, your family, your gym routine, the stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with coaching. And that's exactly why it works. There's a psychological principle called the parasocial relationship. And you might have heard this when you research why viewers like streaming so much. It's this one-sided connection where your audience starts feeling like they genuinely know you, even though you've never met, even though you've never spoken. They feel like you're a friend. Stories are the strongest parasocial bonder on Instagram because they're raw, they're ephemeral, which means short, they feel intimate, and at 2 to 3 per day, that's 730 touch points per year where you're shaping how people perceive you. So what does a good personality story actually look like? Well, here's some verbatim examples. They're not the exact stories you would put up. They're just kind of the summarized versions. And this is actually also a great way to make the story. So you can just make a summarized 3 to 4 sentence version of your story and then kind of expand that into an actually well-written story sequence for personality, social proof, which we'll get into all that later. So it would be just finished a workout and had this random thought about business persistence, unpopular opinions. My mom called today and this funny moment happened. And then, Saturday morning, coffee, I'm not having my laptop. This is what I'm thinking about over the next 6 months. None of those mention your offer. None of those are value content. None of those teach you anything or teach your audience anything. And that is the point. They're building the human behind the expertise. So here's the exact template you want to use to make a story like that, a personality story like that. You want to first pick something from your day, add an actual opinion or a feeling, and then connect it loosely to a broader idea. And this is optional, but this will tie together the story and show that there's actually a point to it. Don't do this always, but this is really good when you actually want to make a point. And then you can post it raw, no editing, no second guessing. The best thing to do is just to make it on the native Instagram editor. Now, the connection to business doesn't need to be direct. If you're at the gym and have a thought about discipline, post it. If you're eating dinner with friends and notice something about group dynamics, post it. If you watched a documentary and it changed how you think about something, post it. The key is real opinions, not motivational poster garbage. Nobody wants to see the grind never stops or blessed and grateful. They want to know what you actually think. And the mistake most info owners make is that they think personality stories need to be on brand. They curate them, they edit them, they make them look like mini marketing pieces. And that kills the entire point. That makes them personality stories that flop, like studio photos and motivational quotes, staged morning routines, always having the answer, scheduled authentic posts, hobbies that fit your brand. Personality stories that work are raw photos and honest opinions, or actual morning, admitting you were wrong, a random thought at 2 a.m., your real hobbies. If you did nothing else but post 1 to 2 personality stories for 90 days, your DM quality would genuinely transform. And that's when selling becomes a cakewalk. Now, type 2 stories are documentation stories, and this one separates the amateurs from the professionals. Documentation stories are the behind the scenes of your business, what you're working on, what went well, what didn't, real numbers, real feelings. But here the key word is both. Both wins and losses, what went well and what didn't. When someone only shows wins, your brain flags it. Something feels off. You can't articulate why, but you don't fully believe them. It's because selective presentation triggers a skepticism response. So when you show a 30K month and then 2 months later show a bad month, like 5K, 12K month, and talk about what went wrong, paradoxically, both numbers become more believable because the low month makes the high month more credible, and the honesty makes everything that follows more trustworthy. So if you share only losses, obviously nobody's going to trust you at all. If you share only wins, you're not getting 100% of what you actually are able to. But if you go for wins and losses, you're working at 100% efficiency, no holds barred. So here's what a few documentation stories would look like in practice. And again, the same verbatim examples. Just finished a call with a client, trying something new in collaboration with them. We'll see what happens the next month. Or tried a new VSL structure last week. Or been dreaming of this car for a while, so close I can almost reach it. The main formula here is very, very simple. What happened today or this week, very specific. The result or current status, you can give numbers if possible, and what you learned or what you're doing next, and then your honest feeling about it. It doesn't always have to be business, by the way. Documentation stories like this last one can genuinely be documenting your general progress in making money as well. They don't have to be like, oh, I'm getting better at what I do. They can also be like, I wanted to buy this car for a while, and after a year of working at it, like chipping away at trying to get it, I've finally been able to buy it, because that actually builds the connection. The goal of documentation stories is to make your audience feel like they're watching you build in real time, like they're on the journey with you. This creates something really, really powerful. Investment. When someone watches you struggle with a $12,000 month and then they celebrate your 50K month, 3 months later, they feel like they were part of that. And when you eventually put out a CTA, they don't feel like they're sold to. They feel like they're joining something they've already been a part of. And there's one more thing, by the way. The timeline here matters on documentation stories. This is a 90-day play minimum. Some people follow a year before working with us. That's not unusual for high ticket. The industry standard for nurture cycles on high ticket programs, which means how long it takes for someone to be nurtured enough to actually be able to buy your product, is 12 to 24 months. Documentation stories are what keep people watching throughout that entire period. And then we move on to type 3, which is social proof stories. And this is the one that does the real heavy lifting on conversions. Because social proof stories are client wins, DM screenshots, results, before and afters, testimonials, and they need to be posted way more than you actually might think. Consumers need roughly 112 exposures to reviews and proof before reaching full trust. Every social proof story you post compounds towards that number. The people who post one testimonial per month are barely scratching the surface, and that format matters way more than you might actually think as well. Raw over polished, always. A screenshot of an actual DM where a client says, just closed my $5,000 deal, converts infinitely better than a professionally designed testimonial graphic. Your audience knows that that graphic could have been made in Canva in 4 minutes by anyone. The screenshot is obviously real. The graphic is obviously produced. With social proof that converts, it's always some kind of raw DM screenshot or a screen recording of a results dashboard or a voice note from a client in a story format, specific numbers, and it shows the struggle and the win. And as a bonus, you should be giving your name and or your client's name and their entire story, how they went from the struggle to the actual new peak that they're at. So don't tell them, hey, they went from 0 to 50K a month. Show them what $0 looked like and show them what 50K a month looked like. He started at living in his mom's basement and not being able to get a single $1,000 a month. Now, after working with me for 3 months, he's at 50K months and he has his dream car, which is a Porsche 911, etc., etc., etc. Social proof that gets really often ignored is a design testimonial card or a stock photo with quote overlay. You get it, right? Written reviews on a website, vague praise, and only showing the win. There is also a hierarchy to this type of proof. As long as it's raw, it doesn't mean it's automatically going to be perfect. There's 5 tiers to it. Tier 1 is the highest and most powerful tier, which is showing a video of the client showing their own results because it's the most believable. Tier 2 is a screenshot of real DMs or messages with specific numbers. This is, again, really, really, really real because the client took it themselves. They went out of their way to give you this. Now, on a lower level, there's voice notes or audio testimonials. Here, these could be much more easily faked. Tier 4 is written testimonials with an actual name, and Tier 5 is an anonymous or vague testimonial, and this is the absolute weakest. What I'd recommend is just ignore Tier 3 to Tier 5. These are completely useless. Tier 1 to 2 should be the only testimonials you're getting from every one of your clients. Now, how do you actually stack these social proof stories consistently? Because a lot of people just bomb them out and run out of those social proof stories after 3 days. Well, you want to have a dedicated results channel, first of all. Slack, Telegram, whatever. Every time a client sends you a win, you want to screenshot it immediately and save it to a folder. This will become your proof library. Then 2 to 3 times per week, post one as a story. Not all at once, spread them out. The compounding effect comes from a repeated exposure over time, not a dump of 15 testimonials in a single day. Repeated, consistent, spread out. That is the mechanism. Now, there's a 4-slide basic format that you can use to make any of your social proof stories. Slide 1, you want to have a screenshot of a client DM or a results dashboard. Slide 2, brief context, like this is his first name, came in at 5K a month, been working together for 6 weeks. Slide 3 is what changed, fix 1, 2, 3. Slide 4, this is optional. You can have their words or another screenshot or a direct quote. You want to keep it about 2 to 4 slides max per proof story. Do not over-explain. And there's also one thing that almost everyone misses that I touched on just earlier. You can repost the same client win multiple times. And this makes sure you can never, ever run out of these social proof rotations because your story viewers rotate. Not everyone sees every story. So that client who went from 5K to 30K, you can post about them in January, then again in March with an update, and then again in June when they hit 50K. Your audience does not think, oh, I've seen this before. They think, damn, this person keeps winning. Why? Because of you. The trust stack is not just one moment. It is hundreds of small proof points over months. If you stack all 3 types of this social proof, though, you will crush. Now, there's type 4, CTA stories. And this is the one that everyone usually uses wrong. CTA stories are where you actually ask for something. A DM, a click, a booking, a response. And the biggest mistake is doing it too often. Why? Because your followers get desensitized. If every 3rd story is DM me XYZ to get started, they stop seeing it. It becomes wallpaper. It blends into the scroll. But if you go 10 to 14 days of pure personality, documentation, and social proof, then drop a single CTA sequence, it's an event. People pay attention because it breaks the pattern. So how do you actually make CTAs work? The solution, there's 2 approaches. Both of them work. You can use them alternately. Approach number 1 is the free value drop. Give away something genuinely valuable for free, a template, a training, a framework, a resource that they would expect to pay for. This is the one I'd recommend for most people. A free value CTA would look something like this. Slide 1, I just finished something pretty sick. It's the XYZ. Normally this is part of the program, but honestly, I think everyone should have access to this. DM me, template, and I'll send it over. Approach 2 is the direct offer. You go in guns a-blazing and straight up tell them what you do and who it's for. No games. The direct CTA example would be like slide 1, been getting a lot of DMs lately asking about how I do XYZ. Slide 2, it just comes down to thing. Slide 3, social proof on how I can get you to be able to learn thing. And then taking on 2 to 3 more people this month. DM me system if you want to talk about it. And notice every single time that you use the keyword DM approach, always use a specific word. DM me template, not, DM me if you're interested. The specific keyword makes responding feel easy. You just type one word and it filters for people who are actually interested enough to act. Switching from message me to DM keyword consistently increases response rates, at least for us, by about 2.4 times. And let's say, like, just to put this into perspective, what you would be getting just from doing a CTA sequence that actually does well every 2 weeks. Let's say you have 5,000 story viewers. 3% of them engage with the CTA. That's 150 people. 30% DM back, 30% book a call. That's 13 to 14 calls. 40% close at $5,000, 5 to 6 new clients. That's $25 to $30,000 from a single CTA sequence. If you run this once every 2 weeks, that's $50 to $60,000 a month from stories alone. And that math is conservative. If you're replying to DMs within a minute instead of hours, your DM to sale conversion can be 3 to 4 times higher. By the way, this is exactly the kind of system I build for clients: the funnel, the DM automation, the setter scripts, all of it. If you're sitting on an audience and want help turning it into a conversion machine, I'll leave a link in the description or DM me. Either way, let's get back into the video. So you want to have maximum about 1 CTA sequence per 2 weeks. Anything more and you will train your audience to tune out your asks. The other 12 to 13 days, you can just go for personality, documentation, social proof, and building the trust that makes the CTA work when it actually drops. Now, you know the 4 types. How do you actually execute? Because random stories posted whenever you feel like it won't work. You need some kind of basic rotation. So the basic rotation you can go for is Monday, personality, Tuesday documentation, Wednesday social proof, Thursday personality, Friday documentation, Saturday social proof, and then on Sunday you can have a CTA every other week or a personality story. 2 to 3 stories per day, following the rotation, and the whole thing can be batched. The reason I like this rotation a ton is just because you can change it very, very easily. It's very malleable. So if you have a lack of trust within your audience, you can change the Monday story into a social proof story, or you can change the Sunday story into a social proof story. Maybe you have a lack of just documentation and you want to get a bit more chummy with your audience. You can post documentation stories instead of the Wednesday social proof story or the Saturday social proof story. Whatever it might be, whatever problem you're facing, it's very easy to go ahead and change up this rotation so it's completely perfect for you. And speaking of batching the stories, 7 days of stories can be made in about 30 minutes. And it's all using a very basic system I like to call the batch system. Number 1, you want to open the Notes app and brain dump about 7 thoughts or opinions you had this week. You can take up to 5 to 10 or even 20 minutes if you'd like. Number 2, check your results or proof folder. Pick 2 client wins to share throughout the week. That's about 3 minutes. And write 2 documentation updates about your week. Specific numbers, 5 minutes. This will also take about 5 minutes, right? Number 4, you want to take about 3 to 4 photos right now. So desk, coffee, walk, whatever's around you. That'll also take about 5 minutes. And you'll be taking more photos throughout the week. This is just for now. Then you want to match the photos to text, pair your story with a photo or plain dark background that you just took right now, or you can just go through your camera feed and just choose one. That'll take about 5 minutes. And number 6, you schedule all 14 stories across the week using native scheduling, or just do it later. 7 minutes. 30 minutes, 7 days covered, and 14 stories total, 2 per day. Now the batching system is mainly for if you really, really like batching and you don't have the time for your stories. But if you genuinely have some kind of free time, just spend about 30 minutes per day being creative with your stories, because if you post every single day and make the story on the day, you'll be more creative, it'll be more raw and authentic, and you'll just have better things to talk about because you've actually experienced more things recently. So, if you experience something in the morning on breakfast, you can't talk about that until next week. By posting it every single day, you can talk about it when it's fresh in your mind. That's the reason you want to go for dailies most of the time instead of batching. Now, no matter what you go for, batching or not, throughout the rotation, you always want to be pre-breaking objections. That's the main reason the rotation is so important. Every sales call objection your ICP has should be dismantled in your stories before the call. Like, let's say I can do it myself, right? You get that objection at a time. You post a documentation story showing the time and suffering you went through to get to where you are, the details, the cost. Maybe they say, I don't feel ready. You give them social proof of someone who started in their exact situation throughout the weeks. Let me think about it. Documentation, you give them a what waiting costs story, like talk to someone 3 months ago who said they'd think about it, they're in the same exact spot. And then, is this worth the investment? And then you give them a CTA with free value, give away something worth money, and let them experience the quality first. What you're doing here is you're planting a seed in the viewer's mind. They're at a much lower guard level when they're watching your stories compared to when they're on a call with you, and you're trying to convince them. If you just do this, it'll make it 10 times easier for you to convince them throughout that, 30-minute call maybe that you have, because you'll already have most of the basic objections answered, and they'll come to you only with the really, really deep ones. Now that we know everything, before you start posting, there's one more thing you need to do, which is to avoid the 7 main mistakes that a lot of people will make that kill story strategies that should have worked. Every single one is very fixable, but you need to know what to actually look for. Number 1 is treating stories like mini reels. Reels are for reach, for strangers, for getting discovered. Stories are for conversion, for people who already follow you. The second your story looks like it took effort, it feels like content, and content gets consumed. But raw, honest, slightly messy stories get replied to. That is the main difference. Number 2 is only showing wins. If every story is a highlight reel of your best days, people quietly stop believing you. You show a bad month, a failed launch, a client who churned, these will make everything else more believable. The low month makes the high month actually credible. Number 3 is having CTAs every single day. If you post a CTA every day, you train your followers to ignore what you say entirely. It's the same thing that happens with a huge email blast that comes out every single day. Your subscribers quietly unsubscribe in their head, even if they don't do it physically. Once every 10 to 14 days, maximum. Number 4, talking to everyone and reaching no one. Hey Entrepreneurs is the fastest way to make nobody feel like you're talking to them. The more specific you get with who you're addressing, the harder it hits for the right person. You really want to alienate the people who would never buy anyways, because that just clutters up your funnel, gets you crappy leads, and on top of that, they will never buy. So it's just extra data that you have to deal with. The best way to do it is just to talk to a specific person, which will filter out every tire kicker, filter out everybody who doesn't want to buy, and do that very, very quickly before they actually get into your funnel and don't mess it up for the rest of the people. Number 5 is not breaking objections pre-call. If the same objection comes up on 3 out of 5 sales calls, that is a story problem, not a sales problem. You want to write down every objection you've ever heard on a call, every single one, and then you want to sit down and then create stories specific to them and handle them all one by one via personalities, documentation stories, and social proof stories. Number 6 is expecting results in 2 weeks. These compound, right? You can't expect results in a few weeks. It'll take 90 days minimum. And with B2C consumers, they need about 6 to 20 touch points before purchasing. At 2 stories per day, you hit 60 touch points in a month. But high ticket programs have nurture cycles of up to 12 to 24 months, which is way more than 1 to 2 weeks. Finally, number 7, running stories without reels or reels without stories. If you run just reels without stories, you're just running a reach machine that prints followers who will never buy. With stories without reels, you're nurturing the same small group with no fresh people coming in. The system only works when both are running, because reels do 80% of the new follower work, whereas stories do almost none, and reels do almost none of the conversions, while stories do 99% of it. Now, the real payoff of the system isn't actually month 1. It's more so month 6. And there's a reason people follow you for years before buying. And it's not because your content isn't good. It's because trust compounds non-linearly. Over time, most people will quit at about month 1 to 2 because nothing is happening. DMs aren't flooding in, nobody's buying it, and they think the system is broken. But that's not it, because month 1 is when someone just starts watching. And it takes up till month 12 that you actually get a devoted follower, because every personality story is another brick. Every documentation update is another layer. Every social proof post is another deposit in the bank. And when you finally drop a CTA to that audience, the ROI is insane because you've been compounding for months. 2 stories per day, 365 days, that's 730 intentional touch points. We are pairing yourself with what your ideal client already believes and wants. And the beautiful part is that this machine runs passively once it's built. You do 30 minutes of work per week, and you just keep compounding and build a flywheel that never stops. Here's a quick full system recap, just so you can screenshot it if you really want to, and paste it up somewhere. This is not a hack. This is not a silver bullet. It's more so 100 golden BBs situation, in the glorious words of our great Lord and Savior, Alex Hormozi. The people who implement the system consistently for 6 months are the ones you see posting 30 to 50 to 100K months. Not because they got lucky, because they built a conversion machine that does the selling for them while they focus on making content and serving clients. If you have the audience already and you want help building out the full system, by the way, funnels, stories, automations, the whole backend, that is actually what I do. So I'll leave a link in the description. No pressure. You can take a look and decide for yourself. But no matter what, just start today. Post your first personality story, something real, something you actually think. No filter, no editing, no overthinking it. Do it again tomorrow and then the day after that. 730 days from now, you'll have an audience that doesn't just watch you. They will buy from you consistently and predictably. That is the compounding machine. And it starts with just one raw story. And you'll see the effects within 90 days, 6 months, but 730 days of consistency and your whole business will transform. Hoping to see you in one of these other videos on screen right now. Goodbye.